I'm Samantha Hart, 34, sitting at the defense table in my own courtroom, thumb tracing the red wolf scarf in my lap. Across the aisle, Kevin and Karen were laughing with their attorney, already spending the $5.5 million they thought they were about to steal. They didn't even recognize me. To them, I was just a case file, a windfall they'd been waiting 30 years to collect. To me, they were the reason I learned to love the law, because the law doesn't care about your intentions, only your evidence. Then the bailiff's voice cut through the room. All rise for the Honorable Judge Samantha Hart. My biological parents stood, expecting a stranger to decide their fortune, but I stood with them. I walked past the bar, up the steps, and took my seat behind the bench. Their lawyer's smirk froze instantly. The silence was absolute. O'Hare International was the loudest place on earth. Terminal 3 hummed with a frequency that vibrated right through the soles of my sneakers. People were rushing, announcements were chiming, and the conveyor belts buzzed with an endless mechanical drone. But I didn't feel part of the motion. I felt like a stone in a river, stuck in the mud while everything else flowed around me. I was 5 years old, wrapped in a red wolf scarf that scratched my neck. It was itchy and too long, dragging on the dirty linoleum, but I refused to take it off. Kevin and Karen walked ahead, their movements sharp and synchronized. They weren't holding my hand. They looked like people running late for a business meeting, annoyed, not parental. We stopped at oversized baggage, a cavernous space smelling of jet fuel. Wait here, Kevin said. Count 500 bags. I sat gripping the wool of my scarf as the carousel died. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was a heavy, suffocating blanket that stole my voice for years. But then, a man in a gray suit stepped out from the shadows of a pillar. William. He didn't look like a hero, he looked like an accountant with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. When the security guard reached for his radio to call social services, William's voice cut through the air like steel. No, he said. He knelt in the grime, looking me in the eye to acknowledge my existence. He didn't lie. He didn't say they were coming back. He told me the truth, and in that moment, he saved me from the lie I was telling myself. He became the safety net that caught me when my own blood let me drop. William died on a Tuesday, quietly, the way he had lived. No headlines, just a small service with the shelter staff he had secretly funded for decades. I sat in the front row, the red wolf scarf heavy around my neck, feeling that old airport silence return. But then came the reading of the will. I expected a modest savings account. Instead, the lawyer handed me a portfolio thick with history. William wasn't just a retired accountant. He was a secret angel investor who had backed the giants of the 90s. He lived simply so he could give generously. The final number was $5,500,000, exactly $100,000 for every year of his career. He left it all to me. 2 days later, the news broke, local judge inherits secret fortune. The parasites heard the bell. Within 48 hours, I was served with a lawsuit. I sat in my living room reading the complaint. It was a masterpiece of fiction. Kevin and Karen claimed I was stolen, describing an agony that never existed. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I went into Chambers mode. To normal parents, a child is a person. To them, I was a receivable. When I was 5, I was a liability, so they liquidated me. Now, I was an asset with a $5.5 million price tag. I called Sarah Jenkins, the most ruthless forensic accountant in Chicago. Go back to 1994, I told her. Find the ledger. Most people think the past is buried, but it just waits on microfiche. We pulled tax returns and court archives that smelled like dust and rot. Sarah found the anomaly on a Tuesday. It wasn't just an abandonment, it was a heist. They had already cashed me out, the trial was theater, and Kevin and Karen were the headliners. Karen wept on cue, painting a picture of devoted parents victimized by a wealthy predator. I watched from the defense table, letting them build their monument to grief brick by lying brick. Because the higher they built it, the harder it would fall. When our turn came, we called Megan Hart. The air left the room. Megan, the daughter they kept, walked down the aisle with posture that apologized for taking up space. She produced a shoebox of mildewed casino receipts from November 1994. While I was counting bags at the airport, they were at the riverboat celebrating. Then, my attorney dropped the hammer, the 1995 settlement where they legally declared me dead for a $450,000 check. They had signed my death warrant, now, they were choking on it. The judge's gavel sounded like a gunshot. Case dismissed with prejudice. Kevin and Karen were led away in handcuffs, their screams echoing until the heavy courtroom doors cut them short. I didn't watch. For 30 years, silence had been my prison, now, it was my power. I didn't keep the money for myself. I launched the Baggage Claim Foundation, ensuring no foster child ever stands alone in a terminal wondering if they matter. 6 months later, I sat with Megan in a noisy coffee shop. Across from me, she finally looked light, the weight of our parents' lies burned away. I touched my red wolf scarf. It wasn't a shield anymore, it was just a scarf. I listened to the quiet beneath the chatter, the peaceful silence of a closed case. I wasn't the girl who was left behind. I was the girl who was caught.